Hey everybody, welcome to episode 14. Wow, episode 14.
Yeah, man. Abel, it's going by fast.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Episode 14 of the Real Estate Talk. I'm Abel.
I'm Burhan. How are you guys doing today?
Man, it's one of those days, right? We're getting through it. We got the holidays coming up, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Man, I'm getting hungry for that turkey, man. You know?
It's funny that you say that, right? Like I'm Orthodox, as you know, and Ethiopian Orthodox. So it always falls where Thanksgiving comes, and I think like once every 4 years, it doesn't fall on the fasting season.
Mm-hmm.
So this year it falls during fasting. So I'm not gonna fast. I just can't do it. Like I'm a horrible when it comes to that because it's Thanksgiving and I want to eat turkey and I want to enjoy all the things. But people that do it a lot, like my mom and some of my family members, they don't get to enjoy the turkey and all that during Thanksgiving. Actually, all the way throughout till the middle of January is when they break their fast.
I see. That's interesting.
When they fast, it's not just like they don't eat completely. It's just no dairy products, no meat products, and things like that. So they just eat only like fruits, vegetables, and things of non living, I guess, essentially, right?
Well, that's a good thing because, most other people, they eat really heavy on Thanksgiving.
That's me.
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah. We just munch, and before you know it, you got the good old-fashioned, let's pop our belts out.
Yeah, watch the football game and chill. My favorite thing is the day after. The leftovers.
Well, so. It's funny because why do you think the whole Black Friday concept started? I just have this hunch. I think it started because everyone needs to get up and do some walking to burn off that fat belly.
That true too.
Yeah.
It's just funny how when people with different cultures like myself and you, we assimilate to the Thanksgiving and then the Christmas, but still try to keep those deep values that we have as our culture, right? So
correct.
It's just always funny to me, but I've completely assimilated. I mean, Thanksgiving is like my thing. I cook and set up the whole house, and we're a little fair where we'll set up the turkey and everything, but then we also have the vegetarian dishes on the side for everybody else.
So I was touching earlier on Black Friday, right?
Yeah.
We got Thanksgiving. We're all going to eat, and then pop our belts out because our bellies are coming. And then we got Black Friday, and now it's something new, Cyber Monday coming.
Yeah.
And that actually, even though prices are discounted, that is actually what runs up American debt in our society.
Yeah.
Everyone just goes spending and shopping and spending and shopping. And then most people in America don't save their money.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people don't end up buying a house until their late 30s or early 40s. Why do you think that is, Abel?
So statistically, I guess right now it's become people that are buying first-time home buyers are 38 years old now, right? That's the average age. Obviously, we're both not at that age, but we're a little bit hybrid than most. But
I'm almost 38. So.
But you didn't buy your first home at 38. So
I bought it when I was 21.
Exactly. So it's I think it's not the same market as our parents were, right?
Correct.
So it's harder to buy a home now. Two, a lot of families are starting later now, right? So people are not getting married at the rate that they used to. People are not going to college at the rate that they used to. Not that justifies why they haven't bought a home, but I think it's the living situations now are a lot more different than it was in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, generations ago, because of just the simple fact that, hey, more people are living in the city and living in apartments and condos and things like that. So that has a society effect to it too, and it's a lot harder to get into the housing market.
It is, man. It is.
It's 20% to buy a home, especially in our area. It's a lot of money, and your wages are not adding up to you being able to purchase a home.
Well, it's funny because I look at a lot of data, and decades ago, baby boomers, generations ago, you only needed a salary of,
a single person salary.
And back then, you can get away with working at a convenience store or working as a cab driver. Now you got Uber drivers, and you can easily afford to buy
a home. Yeah.
Now it's quote unquote the American dream, but most people can't afford to buy a house.
Yeah.
Everyone has to come up with, I need a cosigner, I need a third cosigner. These days I see people that are earning minimum wage get 4 to 5 people together on the loan application just to buy a house. And we're talking, buy a small condo, not buy a quote unquote house, buy a small condo.
It's a lot to do with the market, with the way things are going right now, right? More and more people are not, they're not even thinking, they're thinking about how am I going to buy my groceries rather than let me go and buy a home. But if you look at the trend of how housing has grown in equity, baby boomers that bought their home in the 90s and 80s, guess what? Their retirement is in that home.
It's a retirement net.
Exactly. Yeah. They bought a house for $100,000 in 1990 and are selling it for $1 million in 2024. Yep. So you have to look at it in that aspect, right? So all the young people that are out there that are like, I'm only 20, I'm only 21, I can't afford a home, or I can't do this. You have to start planning and thinking in a different way. One advice that I always give younger people live and they get roommates and they get an apartment, 2-3 bedroom apartment, split up that rent and live like that.
Correct.
And they're not gaining any equity. They're paying rent and that's it, right? If you have a group of friends that you're already thinking about buying or renting with, why not transfer that into getting a group of friends and buying a house together?
Exactly. And what you would do in that case is not joint ownership with survivorship. You would do it something in the title called tenants by entirety. Mm-hmm. What that means is, let's say you have the group of friends, you buy the house together, and then you would split it where, let's say me and you were the friends, right? And we buy a house. Then we would split it 50-50. But then let's say we buy the house for $100,000, and then 2 years later it's worth $200,000. And then we have $100,000 equity, right? Mm-hmm. And then I come up to you and say, Abel, I want to sell my stake. With tenants by entirety, I have the right to do that. Joint ownership, usually you got a husband, wife, they will always keep it together. That's how it usually works.
Yeah, and how those younger kids and what they can do is buy the home. Like, let's say a group of 4 friends right out of college, if they're thinking about going and renting, an apartment, a 3-4 bedroom apartment together, why not put the money that because you're gonna have to pay a deposit either way to buy to rent a home, right? So why not get that little deposit that you guys are gonna put together, buy it into a home, a single family home with 4 or 5 bedrooms, live in that home, get it the way that you just said, tenants by entirety, and build that from there. Now your guys are paying off your mortgage. So let's say you guys are fresh out of college, 22, 23 years old. You live in that home for 3-4 years. Now you guys have equity in it. You can do one of 2 things. You guys can sell that and then split up that equity and then go into buying your next home, because now you're starting a family, you're getting married, you and your girlfriend are doing that, right? You can use that and buy your next home, because now you have equity, you have down payment money that you're gaining, or you can sell your share to somebody and do that. Or you guys can use the equity, take a HELOC out, each of you buy your own home and still rent that house out and let that equity keep building.
Exactly. Whatever you end up doing, Abel, the first step is the big giant step in overcoming your fear.
Yeah.
Recently, I watched a video from Jeff Bezos, and Bezos says most people in America, they get comfortable, mm-hmm. and they're full of fear. They don't want to do anything. They just want to continue working that job, earning minimum wage, and then all they do is continue to complain. Why is that? If you can get over the fear and you get a little uncomfortable, that's what you have to do. So why not take that giant step and do something sooner, right? Mm-hmm. If you continue just kicking the can and wait every year, okay, I want to buy the house in 2025. 2025 comes. You say, okay, I want to buy the house in 2026. I'm going to buy the house in 2027. If you keep waiting, the real estate values aren't going to wait for you.
Yeah.
They're going to continue to appreciate year over year over year. So you have to make that giant step now instead of waiting every year while prices continuously appreciate.
Yeah.
That's the major step you have to take.
So one or two things that I also was thinking as you were speaking right now is preparation, right? More kids like ourselves, like I know for you do this for an example. You have young kids, all 4 of them are under the age of 7, but they
Correct.
all have credit cards.
Yeah.
And you have their name under your credit card. You pay off that bill, but you're building their credit.
Correct.
By the time they turn 18, if you have a little savings for them and they turn 18, now they have 10, 12 years of credit history. And now that this is more geared towards the parents, you got to set your kids up to succeed, right?
Exactly.
So you're building their credit for them to be able to come and buy a home at 18, 19, 20 years old. These are little things that we can do as a society, as first generation of immigrants. These are things that we learned on the fly and we didn't know going in, right? So for everybody that's out there that's listening, that don't be afraid that you can't purchase a home because you're in a certain kind of situation. You have to set yourself up, and then you have to pass that knowledge along to everybody else. So if you know what it takes to buy a home, pass that. Tell your little brother how to do that. Tell your little cousin how they can do that.
Exactly.
They make it to where it's like, now the average first-time home buyer is 38 years old. Well, that may be true, but a lot of people are not. They're not learning these steps. There's so many grants that are out there. You can put 0 down to buy a home. 2-year job history, little things that people our age or younger actually don't know because they just don't know where to start, right?
Exactly. And if you just take that big giant first step, and sure, along the way you'll be full of fear, you'll be scared, but that's what we're here for, right? We're here to help you get over that fear. We want to help you, and that's why as realtors, we're there to hold your hand from the beginning to the end until the closing. We want to make sure you're not scared, and by taking that giant step, you'll get comfortable. Then, believe it or not, before you know it, you'll buy your second house, and the third house, and the fourth house. But the average age for first-time homebuyers is 38 because most people in America are scared.
Yeah.
They think it's impossible to buy their dream house.
The average age for a homeowner in general is 51 years old.
51.
So that's those numbers are alarming. If you look back into the 60s, the 50s, and I don't have those numbers right in front of me, but I know for a fact in the 90s, I think it was the average first-time home buyer was like 28 years old.
Yeah.
The average homeowner was 40, 45 years old. So it's getting harder to go, but there's also so many options. So one thing, we're lucky enough right now in this new age of work and how people work for hybrid and people work in different aspects is if you work hybrid and you live in New York, Los Angeles, even the Northern Virginia area, and you're completely remote, why not go move to Kansas or somewhere where it's more affordable to buy a home? Not saying that that's going to be your forever area. You might end up loving it, right? But
Correct.
It gets you into the housing market.
Exactly. And you get to learn a lot. By taking that first step, you learn a lot about the tax advantages to owning a home. Believe it or not, whenever you have a job, most people in America have W-2s, right?
Yeah.
What happens when you get paid? You get taxed.
You get taxed on that, yeah.
And is there any way to avoid those taxes?
No, 2 things that are unavoidable is death and taxes, Burhan. We know that, right?
We know that.
Yeah.
When you have capital gains, is there any way to avoid those taxes?
Yes.
There is, but rental income, you can easily avoid those taxes. Rental income. Capital gains, you have to have the write-offs.
Yeah.
Rental income, you can completely avoid those taxes. There are 3 types. W-2, capital gains, rental income. Rental income, you can completely dodge those taxes legally in America. So that's something to keep in mind.
That's true. I also feel like, that I don't want to say it's fear mongering, but just telling people, oh, the average age is 38. Now you're just like, oh, I'm never going to buy a home, or I'm working towards buying a home, but I just can't get anywhere. But a lot of that is educating yourself,
Correct.
is finding out the resources, finding out ways. Like we just said, how many of you are out there working remotely? How many of you have even considered saying, hey, let me not be in Los Angeles or Northern Virginia or New York. Let me go and live in Kansas, Ohio for, I don't know, 2-3 years and build equity on that home, and then use that equity to go buy your other home or keep that as a rental property. And like, there's so many options. You just have to go out and try it, right?
Correct.
It sucks. It's we're getting older, and the age ownership and all that, and with these big corporations buying up homes, they're making it harder. It's a lot harder to buy a home now than it was when our parents were out of our age, essentially.
Here's the other interesting part. Let's say you don't want to buy a house and you gave up, you quit, right? Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do? You're going to live on rent forever.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is if you take out a mortgage, right? Mm-hmm. That mortgage rate stays fixed forever, right? Until you pay the house out. Mm-hmm. But if you live on rent, isn't your rental rate going to increase over time?
Increase each time,
especially with inflation going up. So rent is going to go up steadily over time, but your mortgage stays fixed. Now, yes, the taxes and insurance can go up, which you can combat that, but your rent, you can't do much about that. Yeah, you can move, but why would you want to deal with that, moving from point A to point B to point C, when you can just buy your first home, which can become your dream home, and then not deal with moving over and over and over.
Yeah. And another thing that I always advise people is, we have young people date, they get ready to get married and do all that. Those are all the things that happen, right? But think of it, if you and your significant other, while you're both single and renting and doing all that, if you two bought a home and then now you join your incomes together, you don't have to sell the other home that you bought. You guys live in one home, rent the other home out, do that for about a year or so, then go buy another home together with both of your names, and now you have 2 rental properties. These are steps, and you want to start aligning yourself with people with those mind states. They're going to tell you that you can't do it. They're going to tell you it's harder to buy a home now. But where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah. There's always a way to do something. It's that want. It doesn't matter if you're, making X amount of dollars. If you save an X amount and you put yourself in position, you're going to be able to. And we're lucky in this country that, yes, there are, places like California that are very expensive, Northern Virginia that are very expensive, New York very expensive. But there's also a vast array of land and a vast area where you can buy property and get into the housing market.
Exactly. And right now they're saying if your money is just sitting in the bank, it's losing value. Mm-hmm. Banks take your money daily, and then they use your deposits to make money. But if your money is just sitting there in the bank earning 0% interest, it's actually losing value due to inflation. Meanwhile, you could take the same money and put it in an investment property to gain value over time. Because properties, year over year, they continuously appreciate, and the value goes up.
Yeah. Now, there might be some people that are like, I don't want to buy a home because I don't want those responsibilities. Now, that does come with responsibilities, right? Like, correct. If something breaks down, you can't just call your landlord and say, hey, my toilet's leaking and I need you to fix it. These expenses fall on you. But again, there are ways to set yourself up. If you buy a home and you have the seller give you 1 year of home warranty, or you pay for that home warranty yourself, so that you don't take such a big hit when you're buying, when something breaks down and you need to get it fixed. If you have those things, you can offset those costs, right?
Correct, you can. So whenever something happens in the house, you can always make sure you have insurance, so if something major happens, you just pay a deductible. And usually it's not that bad. people always get worried, and as I stated earlier, they're full of fear that they don't want to deal with the headache, but it's not as bad as people make it out to be. And it's an exchange. If you don't want to deal with it, then you live on rent forever, and what happens in return? Your rental rate increases over time. That's why it's called inflation, because rent continuously goes up. Why do you think if you buy a car right now, before COVID, you buy a car, most people are paying what, like $200 per month on the note?
Yeah.
Now people are paying $500, $600, $700, $800, $1,000 per month on the car notes.
Yeah.
So same thing will happen with the rent rates. Right now, everyone's forecasting rental rates on apartments will go up dramatically over the next 4 years.
Yeah. And honestly, it's your mortgage. Now it can fluctuate if the insurance goes up on it or if the taxes around it go up on it. But for the most part, it's not going to be a drastic change in your cost, right? So, and over time, your cost gets less as you pay down your loan. Eventually, all you're going to end up paying is your home insurance, your mortgage, and your taxes. It's alarming to hear the average age of a first home buyer is 38. Because if they go on a typical 30-year loan, they're not going to pay that off until they're 68. You're going to be working well after your retirement to try to pay off your home, versus if you buy your home in your 20s, by the time you're 50, let's say you buy a home at 20, by the time you're 50, you can have a mortgage that's already paid off. Now you have 14 more years before retirement where you can really save aggressively for retirement and have your mortgage covered.
Exactly. And guess what? That's going to be an extra retirement egg. Let's say you got your 401k or IRA, and then also everyone's going to have Social Security, right? But your real estate, your piece of real estate will be an additional factor as far as retirement is concerned. Or
even leaving it for your kids.
Yep. That's another thing.
You know what I'm saying? Like saying, hey, I'm going to leave this for my kids. If you end up, like I told you in my earlier example, if two couples bought a house separately together, then lived in one and rented the other, then bought another house and rented both, now they have 3 properties that can eventually be left for their offspring. That's how you create generational wealth, right?
Yep, exactly.
And I think in our community and just young people in general, we're not thinking to that aspect, right? We're not thinking, hey, buying a home is an investment. Like you said, you get more gains on a home than you would than just having your money sitting in a bank.
Yep, exactly.
And young kids and people need to start exploring other options of buying home, whether if you're living with your parents for sacrificing and saying, I'm going to live there for 5 years to save up to buy a home, or you and your friends are getting together and putting a substantial amount down to buy a home so that you can eventually use that to grow.
Or look for grants. A lot of first-time home buyers, they always think their income isn't going to change dramatically and they're in debt or something else is going on, so they gave up and quit.
Yeah.
Talk to your realtor, talk to us, and we can help you look for grant programs locally that you may be qualified for.
Yeah. And it's just out there. And I mean, when I saw that and we read that and you and I had a conversation about it, and it's just like we had the foresight, to buy in our 20s. Yep. And that has been great investments for both of us because we were able to grow and buy more property as the time goes. What I always tell my clients and people is that your first home is essentially going to get you in the game, right?
Yep.
Right now, everybody that's not owning a home is sitting on the bench and just watching the game being played. Yep. But once you get that first home, you're in the game. Now it's a matter of how can I win the championship? And I use sports as a metaphor, but it's like they make it seem as difficult to do, but it's really not. It's just a matter of knowing what you can do, how you can do it. Even if you decide, you know what, I want to live in New York or LA, all you have to think about is what you pay for rent in those areas is what a mortgage would be somewhere else.
Exactly.
So you can essentially go and buy a home somewhere else, still live in the city that you're living in and rent that out. And you'll get way more money in return, but then now you have a nest egg that you can use to catapult to your next position.
Think of it this way. Everyone's in a rat race, right? you don't get out of the rat race until you buy your first property, because then you start understanding the game.
Yeah.
And then you can go from one property to 2 to 3 to 4. It's just like the game of Monopoly. And all of us here are in the same game, but until you get out of the rat race, you don't really start understanding the game much better.
Yeah. So in the Ethiopian community, there's this thing, it's called a qub. So a qub is basically, let's say, a 10 group of friends, right? They get together and they put $500 each. And each month, a different person gets it, right?
Correct.
Do you have something similar to that in your culture?
It's
so
called committee. It's the same thing.
Like it's the same thing. So I think people in this country and younger people don't use that concept of that community or the qub that is called in my culture, where you get with a group of people and you use that to build what you need to build, right? So
correct.
You if there are 10 friends and they all are fresh out of college and they got making $60,000-$70,000, if you guys got together and did the community and did that and use that, like, we have to start thinking in that mind state, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes you don't have to recreate the wheel; you just have to know how to do it.
Exactly. And most people aren't introduced to that. I think that's part of the issue.
Exactly. And I mean, we can talk and dive so deep into this, but if you want to know more about this, and if you just have questions and you're young and you're in your 20s, you want to get into this housing market, give us a call, shoot us an email, give us a comment. We'll talk you through it. We have classes that we offer here in our office. Or
if you just want some turkey, you can come to the office. We can share some turkey together. Pop open the bells together.
That's very true. But we say this to say, and we wanted to put this out before the holiday season, is that when you're young, that's the best time to make decisions and mistakes, even and because you can learn from those mistakes. But if you're out there and you're not sacrificing. A good example is the day before Thanksgiving, I think, is like the number one night for people that go to bars and do all that, right?
They have a name for it. What is it called? Something Wednesday?
I can't think of the name.
That's a nickname.
So removed from that. But these are what young people are doing, going out every night, drinking every night, every weekend, really sit down and say, hey, I spend $200 every weekend going out. If I put my head down and didn't go out for a whole year, how much can I save?
What's 50 times 200?
Yeah, and say whatever I save, will that help me get into a house, or will that help me do something greater? And,
exactly.
And it's fine if you don't have no desire to do that, but we're done with the generation or the just complaining and saying that I can't get into this. I can't do this. I can never get ahead, but you're not trying.
That's the difference. And it's what I mentioned in one of the other videos. Jeff Bezos said people that just want to relax, take it easy, they're going to be complacent for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
But people that actually take action and get this vibe of feeling uncomfortable for a few years, they're the ones that end up wealthy. That's the difference.
What was that other one that they say? A diamond is made out of pressure, right?
Correct. Yeah, so a diamond is made out of pressure.
It's the same thing, and I don't want it to be too motivational of what we're doing. I feel like this has been a motivational cast, but it's something that you guys can really start considering. If you're sitting there and watching this and you're just trying to find out ways you can do that, real estate is a way you can.
Exactly.
Real estate can open up so many doors for you and leverage you to catapult to what you want to do.
Yep,
and
exactly.
You just have to learn to use those advantages.
It's not just your house and your home. It's also a great investment.
Exactly. On that note, we're going to end it right there. I'm Abel.
I'm Burhan.
And we'll see you guys next week.